and welcome to this week's episode of the AP Arms. Today we are joined by our resident AI expert, Paul Solomon, who's head of data science here at Xelix. Today, Paul will be diving into the very popular, the very buzzy topic of generative AI and just cleaning up some of the mystification and noise in the market currently. So, Paul, for our audience here today, could you just give a bit of background into you and who you are?
Absolutely. Delighted to be here, Elisa. Yep, as you said, I'm the head of data science. I've got quite a varied background. I was a structural engineer. I was a poker player for a few years in my 20s. I was a management consultant, but I've been in data science for well over a decade now. Found my niche and I've stuck to that.
Amazing. That is a very varied background. We'll have to dig into that another time at another pub, perhaps. Thank you for that. Before we dive into the topic, we like to ask our guests here at the AP Arms their favourite pub experience or pub.
Well, I don't really get to go to the pub much these days, so it's probably very boring. Just very nice to go and hang out with friends. Are there more exciting pub experiences that I'm missing at the moment? I'm not sure what else to say.
Maybe. I mean, we've had some corkers in terms of stories on the AP Arms so far, so the bar's quite high. That's fine. You're at the pub now. Hopefully the AP Arms will be a good experience for you and you'll leave us a 5-star review. So typically how we start with these conversations is with a rating question. But before I dive into that, I'd love to know a bit more. Well, I obviously know, but I'm sure our audience would love to know a bit more about what you do in your data science role at Xelix.
Yeah, so I lead the data science team. We're 5 strong at the moment, and really we just look after all of the AI and machine learning that sits within the Xelix platform. So we're maintain anything that's already in there, we're improving it, but we're also developing new tools and technologies that can support anything in there, from the invoice processing, duplicate detection to reconciliations, and now into Helpdesk as well.
Yeah, good stuff. Okay, thank you. So obviously we'll go into a lot more detail later on in the conversation. So as I mentioned, to kick things off, we start with the rating question, 1 to 10. When you see content in the market and conversation in the market around Gen AI, how much of it do you think is kind of true, real, fact-based, from 1 being not much of it, or you look at it and you think, oh, in my experience, I don't think that's correct, and 10 being quite a lot of it is just a lot of noise and not necessarily true?
9 or 10.
Really? Is it that high?
Yeah, but I mean, it's any technology, right? Any subject, to be honest. I think you're an expert. Whatever you're an expert in, when you see sort of the coverage in the press or whatever, you tend to look at it and realize, I haven't quite got that right. I think that just if you realize that for your own field of expertise, you realize it's the same for everything. And especially with new technologies where there's a lot of hype, there's a lot of people just sort of clamoring for attention, let's say, for clicks, for likes, for that sort of thing. So yeah, a lot of it it doesn't make much sense, if you ask me, but maybe maybe I'm wrong.
In your humble opinion,
there is valuable.
Okay, well, that actually sets the precedent for today's conversation, really. There's a lot of information out in the market, some of it not quite right. So we're going to spend the next 10 minutes or so diving into the Gen AI topic. And the first question, which is obviously going to be the first question, in your words, Paul, what is generative AI?
So generative artificial intelligence. I think everyone knows ChatGPT, and that's exactly what it is. Given some text and more some images as well, possibly predict the next word and predict the next word and so on to get an answer, and get that process of put text in, get text out so good that it's completely indistinguishable from a human. And then so much of our lives is language that really it becomes a general purpose model that can do anything that can be described with words. So it could do lots of things. It's we're even discovering now what the sort of space of all those things are, and that's all it is really. It's just generating words, but it's realizing how useful and valuable that is, and figuring out the ways that you can use that to your advantage.
I guess for me, I've used ChatGPT. My hands are up. I've been curious about what it can do, and it really is about like reiterating how you define your instructions, I guess, because it's wildly off to begin with, and it just takes a lot of time to kind of get it accurate, which segues into my next question, really. Like, we could talk all day, I'm sure, but top 3 real risks you see with Gen AI, because there's a lot out there and it's a bit scary, I guess, for some companies and some individuals. What 3 things would you really consider high risk, and how to overcome them?
Yeah, sure. I think, the 3 things are, the first one, you've nailed it, is like accuracy. I also think security, and maybe some strategic questions around like, how much you use it or how little you use it. On accuracy and reliability, it's like you, as any user knows, it can produce inaccurate or misleading results. And I think thinking about this from the point of view of like, say a finance team, that could be a big problem, because you're dealing with lots of money, and sort of mistakes can be sort of significant. I think the important thing there to deal with that one is, like, for now, having humans in the loop is really important. So having a human in overseeing the system is really important. And also, it's like much easier to develop a system that works really well if you've got a human overseeing it. It's way, 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 way harder to create a fully automated system. So yeah, so accuracy and reliability. Then on security, like handling sensitive information, obviously you need to protect that from breaches, from bad actors. There's a lot of data flying back and forth. So, I mean, the important thing is to understand your technology stack, understand where you're using, understanding where your data is going, keeping that enclosed, all of the things that probably people far more, experienced and skilled than me in security matters can help anyone with, to make sure that you're kind of like not taking too many risks there, or taking very little risks. And then the final one, strategic. It's like, I think there's a balance between over-reliance on AI systems, but also getting left behind. So you can go too far with it, and like, for instance, you can try and create automated systems without human oversight, but you can, like, you can put all your bets on it, and think it's going to deliver the world, when you actually need to be pragmatic and understand what solution, like what problems it can solve. But on the other side, like, I think this is very powerful, and we're discovering all the use cases and where it can be used. So like, being left behind as well, I think, is a risk on that one as well. You don't want to kind of like completely dismiss it and just find yourself like getting left behind the competition, because it can really improve efficiency and all any metrics that you're trying to improve.
Jump back to the first point where you said, it's really important to have human oversight. Who does that? Who is the human? Is this a specific AI oversight role? Are the jobs being created, or would you just have it from somebody in the team who's close to the project? What would be your guidance on that?
The expert is the person that's doing this day to day. They're what we're trying to emulate, and so they're the best placed person to like oversee any kind of system. And this is not about creating, like, replacing them or creating something from scratch. It's about augmenting them and enhancing them, giving them the tools that they can be, more productive, more efficient, like more creative. I think that's what, like, to be honest, despite what anyone might say, it's like these systems that they're just kind of very good at parroting human stuff that humans say. They're not very creative. I think people are the ones that can be really creative and can actually generate value in that way. This can like help take some of that time away.
Thank you, because I know one of the fears in the market is AI taking our jobs, but I think that position there really lends itself to saying, no, they'll take away the kind of mundane part of the job, but you always need a human to train and be creative and optimize and things like that. I think actually I read somewhere, and I'm not going to quote the numbers because they're not in my head, but Gen AI or AI is creating more jobs than it is taking loads more jobs. And then they're more complex, and they're pushing us forward. So hopefully lots of people can see that as a good thing.
Yeah, I think this is a normal thing with technologies. Normally, in the past, it's added jobs. Look, there might be some kind of transition from some roles, and I think we need to be mindful of the impact on certain jobs and certain roles. I think, but as individuals, what we can do is embrace it and figure out how it can help us and how we can use it. And I think, like, for a society's point of view, like I think it's unquestionably will be a very powerful force for progress and for good.
Nice. Okay, thanks. So point one was around kind of human oversight. Point two was about security. But
Yeah.
your guidance is to kind of speak to your security experts. Are there any kind of typical debates that would come up in the security conversation when it comes to Gen AI?
Yeah, I mean, it feels like a big one now is there's sort of providers like OpenAI that are quite new organizations, and they've got these APIs where you're throwing data, and there's quite a lot of uncertainty about how safe is that data once they've got it. Are they using it to kind of like train their own models? Are they kind of like taking all this data, and that's fair enough. I think the fact is that they're I understand the caution. I think they're probably okay, but I think there are really good solutions now in the market where you can be really clear about, where your data's going and keeping it sort of ring fenced. So I mean, for us, we're kind of working a lot with cloud providers and understanding, okay, how is this all contained in, and can we be confident that the data that we're using, doesn't go anywhere and can't be picked up.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. And your third point. So we were speaking about human oversight, security, and then third point. You're going to have to remind me. I've been too engrossed
So
in
it's
previous
strategic,
conversation.
striking the balance between like too much, too little. It's the dichotomy of like, don't kind of like put all your eggs into one basket. But at the same time, it don't get left behind.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's fair. I think a good way to summarize that is, low risk, maybe high value. What's the low hanging fruit for generative AI? And I think once you've tested and you've put it in it on like a smaller, less intense level, and it's been successful, you've sort of built that confidence and you can keep growing. Which brings me to my next point. So, Helpdesk. I really hope the people who are watching this have heard the word Helpdesk from Xelix lots and lots of times because it's our brand new product. You've been working very, very closely with the product team and working on the Gen AI side of the product. I was hoping you could explain a bit around the behind the scenes of Helpdesk and how the generative AI works, just for those who might be interested in sort of automating their accounts payable Helpdesk and their vendor queries and their AP mailbox management.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of how we're doing it, like you've nailed it there. We're keeping it simple at first. I mean, these aren't simple tasks, but essentially emails come in. A user would normally read an email and kind of, do something on their system and so forth. So the simplest thing we can do is just read that email using a language model and ask it to extract bits of information that are important. So that's quite straightforward. You can you can read an email that has something like a reminder for an invoice, and you can extract the invoice number like that, and then you can have another task that takes that invoice number and then tries to match it to our systems, which is maybe not actually using Gen AI. It's like using other sort of machine learning methods. So what we're building is something that takes a lot of these tasks that the user would do in terms of extracting and understanding information and then matching it to the system. So we're figuring out how to get that to work like really accurately and efficiently. And then once we have that, like the other element is generating responses, right? Because that's what they do. You would write an email. So that's it. You extract all that information and then you give that information to try and generate that output. So that's like the really sort of, the early use cases of what we think will be really valuable. But what we're very keen to do is continue to build the product and figure out what's working and where we're finding value, and then we can build up into more complicated things, really. And like, I do think this technology lends itself to just sort of like compound the returns on it. So you get some simple sort of tasks going well, but then you can actually chain tasks together, and you can actually produce some kind of like what we would call an agent. So an agent sitting there that's like handling any sort of email that's coming on and understanding what's important for the user, and giving the user that information and anything they need to like do their job more quickly. So yeah, building that up and hopefully getting it better and better in collaboration with our customers, because that's, we can have an idea of what might work, but really they know best what's going to work for them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's great. So, an AP mailbox or just the high volume of vendor queries is just a massive pain for our customers. So it does feel like a real low risk, would you say, help desk? And the technology behind it.
Yeah, I mean, we want to be. You've always got to be a little bit cautious with these pieces of technology, but the things we're doing are naturally low risk because we're very much in control in the process. We're testing it along the way. We're saying how good is it at extracting information, how good is it at matching to data on customers' databases and so forth. So yeah, like quite I think quite low risk. There's not too much that can go wrong. You just want to get it working well, but then incredibly high value in terms of once you get that right. If you've got a large volume of emails coming in, you can deal with a lot of that kind of sort of the stuff that's a bit boring to do, and just kind of hopefully get that out of the way quickly and deal with the important things like having good relationships with your suppliers, I suppose, something like that.
Exactly, yeah. And I think it's probably important to call out, which you pretty much have, but yeah, getting those kind of easy things done, and then you still require the humans to focus on stuff that perhaps AI has prioritized for you based on the way that you work. So it doesn't become a completely touchless process. There's still like an element of control there as well, because I think control is another fear factor of AI. So I think is a nice balance between automating that really easy, low risk stuff, and then actually drawing your attention to the things that require a bit more time and like human oversight, as you say. So what are they working on like day to day around Helpdesk?
Yeah, we've usually got like a sort of a pipeline of applications that we're trying to build. So we're on the sort of first half a dozen or so, and we'll kind of come up with ideas along with the product team and the tech team. We'll prototype them, we'll create something simple and see how it works. If it works well, we'll go and productionize it. So we'll write the code in our code base, and then again work with product and tech to actually build the tool that uses it. So yeah, working on that pipeline, and at the moment I'm very keen to just kind of push it and just get as many applications out there as possible, because I don't know which ones are going to necessarily land. It's hard to say sometimes. So I think and one of the great advantages of these technologies is it's actually quite it's not easy, but it's a lot easier than it was to build kind of machine learning AI applications. It takes a lot less time, so that lends itself to trying to build a lot of things and see what works for people.
Yeah, nice. And for our audience who might not be hot on the lingo, when you say like machine learning applications, what do you mean exactly?
Oh yeah, so something like what I said before. Something like a reminder email comes in. An application might be to look for the invoices that it relates to, look them up, and then display the status of that invoice to the user. Another really obvious simple one is a translation service. So foreign language email comes in, hit a button and translate it, or and then on the output, maybe write your response or generate your response in English and then translate it to send it back. So things like that. Other ones that come to mind is like summarizing emails, extracting vendor details. There's quite a lot of things, and there's things that are dependent on different markets as well. So we've got some ideas for the US market around things that are specific to them.
Yeah, nice. I think the main thing is the time savings here. I think like the summary element is quite exciting, like reading a thread of emails. I wish people would do that for me, summarize it and tell me the gist. So big time saver in terms of automating stuff, but also helping you prioritize your time as an end user, and also giving you the gist of what's going on without having to read through 10s, 20 emails. So that's quite exciting.
Yeah.
We've had quite a long chat down the pub. Before we move on and wrap up, is there anything else that you think is really important to share whilst we're on this topic?
No, I just think everyone should have an open mind about it and explore it. I think we're very much in a kind of the emergent stage of this technology. We're figuring out what works, and chances are that if you're open to it and embrace it, you could end up building something that's really hugely impactful. So that's the only thing really. Have an open mind and
yeah. Okay, that's good. It's a little bit motivational towards the end there. Great. Okay, well, now I'm moving on to the fun part, which is the memes section. So with all our AP Arms guests, we give them a couple of images. I do search funny animal pictures, just FYI, secret there. And we ask them to caption one of the images. You don't have to take all of them. Sorry, both of them. So we've got these two here. Let me just pop it up. Can you please have a look at the seal and have a look at the owl and come up with some Gen AI related caption to create your AP Arms meme?
Okay. Now maybe this is cheating, but you did mention this sort of thing might come up. So I've actually prepared my language model to take in my picture and say, give me a light and humorous Gen AI related caption related to this picture. I've put the seal in there, and we'll see what it comes out with.
Oh my goodness. I love that you're using Gen AI for this. Very smart.
Right, okay.
What have you got?
So it says, when the Gen AI suggests sealing the deal and you take it literally. That's actually not bad.
Oh, well done. Well done. I'm impressed. Well done, Gen AI. There's a spot in my marketing team if it wants to join. Amazing. All right, we'll have to note that. I'll create that for you and we'll get that out on socials. So thank you for that part. Stop sharing my screen. So yeah, just to wrap up, Paul, it's been a while since you've been to the pub. How was it returning to the pub? How was your AP Arms experience?
Very nice, very nice, very nice. I should go to the pub more often.
Yeah, make sure you recommend to all your friends. And yeah, thanks for joining us today. For those people who are interested in learning more about Gen AI and Xelix's new Helpdesk solution, we are running a webinar and Paul will be presenting alongside Paul Reuter, our CEO, talking more deeply about Gen AI, the risks, the opportunities, how to cut out the noise. And also we will be showcasing our brand new Helpdesk solution, which is a Gen AI powered tool for managing vendor queries. Anything to add on that one, Paul?
No, yeah, really looking forward to it, and hopefully I can see lots of people there.
Excellent. Well, thanks very much, Paul. I will speak to you later.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.